chosen by the dark. When I was a young boy, barely 5 or 6, I suffered from relentless nightmares. Night after night, they returned, so vivid and horrifying that my mother felt the need to kneel beside my bed, whispering prayers over me. But the prayers did nothing. The nightmares always came, and it was always the same dream. I would wake up in my room, suffocated by an overwhelming darkness that felt as if it was alive. It slithered into my lungs, coiled around my chest. I would fumble in the nightstand, my trembling fingers closing around a cheap plastic flashlight. Slamming my palm against it, I forced out a weak, flickering beam, barely enough to push back the blackness. I lifted my eyes to the wall, heart pounding against my ribs. There, bathed in the sickly glow of the blood-red shine of the moon, was my Scooby-Doo clock. The plastic face was warped in the dim light. The grinning cartoon dog now twisted into something grotesque, his once friendly eyes seeming hollow, lifeless. The second hand stuttered, ticking slower than it should, as if something unseen was dragging it back, refusing to let time move forward. A creeping dread curled around my spine. The clock was stopped at 3 a.m. again, a fragment of time carved into the bones of the night. It was a moment that never passed, a time that never changed, as if the night itself was caught in a loop, holding me prisoner in the dark. The moonlight bled through my window, not the gentle silver glow of a summer's night, but an eerie, viscous red. It slathered the walls, the floor, even my skin, as though I had been dunked in freshly spilled blood. It made my bed look like an altar, the sheets stained crimson in its glow. The heat followed soon after, an oppressive, suffocating wave, as the air thickened with the stench of burning flesh. Not the rich, savory scent of food sizzling over a fire, but something thick, acrid, and suffocating. The unmistakable reek of charred skin searing to the bone. A whisper slithered through the darkness, thin and wet, like the rasp of something breathing too close. It wasn't the wind, it was in the room. My body seized with a cold so deep it felt like my bones were turning to ice. I didn't think, I just moved, yanking the blankets over my head, cocooning myself in shaking breaths and blind terror. My flashlight trembled in my grip, its weak beam flickering against the fabric, casting distorted shadows that swayed and stretched like reaching fingers. Then the air grew heavier, thick with a presence that hadn't been there before. A slow, deliberate pressure sank into the mattress, the fabric stretching and creaking beneath an unseen weight. The blankets tightened around my legs, pulled ever so slightly forward, as if some unseen force, dense, suffocating, and unmistakably alive, had settled itself at the foot of my bed. The room exhaled in silence. I wasn't alone. I refused to look. I clamped my eyes shut, squeezing them so tight that spots of color danced behind my lids. If I didn't see it, it couldn't see me. But I could feel it. The weight on the bed, the thick hush of the air, the slow, deliberate pull of the blankets toward it. All of it was real. Too real. My mind screamed that it was a dream, that none of this was happening, but my body knew the truth. Something was there, and it was waiting for me to open my eyes. I swallowed hard, forcing down the nausea rising in my throat. Be brave. It was just a dream. It had to be. With every ounce of courage I could gather, I gritted my teeth and inched the blanket down, just enough to peek. At the foot of my bed, something sat in the shadows. My skin prickled, every hair standing on end, as the whisper came again, closer this time. My fingers shaking, angled the flashlight toward the figure. It sat with its back toward me, draped in a ragged black robe. The fabric looked damp, as if soaked in something thick and viscous. The whisper came again, its words like rusted nails scraping against my skull. "You have been chosen. Rejoice." Slowly, agonizingly, it turned. The first thing I saw was the claw. Where its hand should have been, a monstrous crimson talon glistened, its surface slick with oozing black sludge. The jagged edges pulsed as if breathing, the liquid dripping onto my sheets, burning through them like acid. I tried to scream, but my throat closed around the sound, strangling it before it could escape. My lips parted, my chest heaved, but only silence came. It began to rise, slowly, deliberately. Its movements weren't natural. They were twisted, like a puppet being pulled upright by invisible strings. The weight of it filled the room, pressing down on my chest, squeezing the air from my lungs. It felt like the walls were shrinking, the space between us dissolving. Panic seized me, and I threw the covers over my head again, curling into myself, my flashlight shaking violently in my grip. My heartbeat thundered in my ears, a wild, frantic rhythm that drowned out everything else. The air around me stretched and warped. Every second dragged, bending under the weight of my terror. The room filled with the kind of silence that felt too thick, too unnatural, as if the entire world had been snuffed out, leaving only me and whatever lurked just beyond the thin barrier of my blankets. I didn't want to look. I couldn't, but something compelled me, an unbearable tension that demanded to be answered. With a shaking breath, I forced myself to peel the covers back again, and that's when I saw its face. The right side of its face was eerily human, too perfect, too pristine, like a marble sculpture kissed by divine hands, untouched by time or suffering. Its cheekbones were sharp, its skin smooth, its eye calm and unwavering. If I had only seen that side, I might have believed it was an angel. But the left, oh God, the left. It was ravaged, grotesque, a nightmare stitched onto beauty. The flesh was torn and uneven, a patchwork of decay and exposed bone, with dark, matted fur creeping along the edges where skin should have been. Its eye, swollen and milky, rolled in its socket, twitching with a sickening wetness. Flies feasted on the open wounds, burrowing into the oozing gashes, their tiny legs disappearing beneath flaps of rotting skin. A forked, snake-like tongue flicked from its lips, hissing softly as it tasted the air between us. It lurched forward, its grotesque form crawling into my space, inch by agonizing inch. The smell of its breath slammed into me, a festering cocktail of rot, sulfur, and decay. I gagged, my stomach convulsing, but I couldn't move. It spoke, its voice a rasping death rattle. "Come with me, child. Let us soar into the night sky." Then I woke up.